Just wanted to, let me wrap this up, Jerry. It's been my honor and privilege to spend some time with you, and I think we really kind of connected, and you know that I'm sincere that I want to pass your story on to the next
You have my permission to do anything you want to do with it.
generations of fighter pilots, because your spirit is still alive and your passion is alive. I want to give you the opportunity to either give some closing thoughts, maybe talk a little bit about your book that's coming out on August 1st, maybe some lessons learned. I know you had some difficult times after the war, and you know, back in your day they called it shell shock, and now they call it PTSD or battle fatigue. It was kind of ignored back then, and it's something I know that's dear to your heart. But you know, you have the floor to just kind of wrap up and give me some final thoughts in terms of what you thought about that time in history.
Well, I'd like to think about this time before I go backwards. People who put a uniform on, military people, policemen, firemen, when they put the uniform on, they commit their lives to other people in the line of duty. And every one of them make that commitment when they go into combat. Unfortunately, people die under circumstances that the civilians don't understand, but the military understands it. When I flew in combat in 1945, I flew 19 missions over Japan, 8 hours or more, or a little less, in a P-51. I flew with 16 guys who didn't come home. 5 of them were killed in accidents in Hawaii, and 11 guys were literally killed in action in combat over Japan. And I lived, and I came home. And I didn't have an easy time being a civilian. I flew with the New Jersey National Guard for 5 or 6 months, flew P-51s, but I was going through something that nobody knew anything about then, called post-traumatic stress disorder. I was going through that. I went through that for 30 years, but I knew if I continued to fly military airplanes that I was going to die by chance or by choice. So I stopped doing what I loved to do, what I was. I was a fighter pilot. And there's a distinction. There's 11 guys on a football team. There's one guy who's the quarterback. And fighter pilots are the quarterbacks of aviation. They have the freedom to do what they want to do, and they do it well. And I'm just thrilled to have had that opportunity. It was the greatest opportunity for me, and probably the greatest thing that I ever did, that I ever will do, was to serve my country in time of war.
Well, thanks for your service. Do you consider your generation the greatest generation? I mean,
no,
Tom
I don't.
Brokaw came up with that. Is that more of a marketing term, do you think?
I think it's a big marketing term. I don't consider myself. I was 17 when the war started, 18 when I went into service. But there are guys who went to Annapolis and who went to West Point who led the war. General Eisenhower, General Patton, General MacArthur, Admiral Nimitz, General Arnold. They were the greatest generation. They made the plans and we carried out the plans, but they made the plans. They created the victory, and they created the independence of the 3 countries that we fought against, Germany, Japan, and Italy, which are democracies today, not because we fought, but because the leaders of our country had the leadership and the knowledge. We didn't have the knowledge, so I'm not part of the great generation in my thinking. Roosevelt was a part of the greatest generation, and then Truman took over for him and dropped the bombs that stopped the war. I've had Japanese people come up to me. My youngest son married the daughter of a kamikaze pilot in 1988. I have 3 Japanese grandchildren. They're human beings, they're people, not what I thought they were. And the greatest generation were the leaders of our community, of military people. That's the way I believe. Book was great. Title sold a lot of books. But the greatest generation were the leaders of our military in World War II, and the president who served 4 terms from 1936 to 1944.